Hi, welcome to SAPL Variety. I'm your host, JD, and it's my pleasure to introduce our new host, Sarah.
Sarah, hi.
And our guest, the fabulous, awesome artist, Piper Banks.
Hello.
Yay, Piper.
Welcome.
So, Piper, tell us a little bit about yourself and your art.
I'm a student at Laguna College of Art and Design, and I focus on oil painting. And I'm born and raised in San Antonio.
So tell us a little about your education in the arts in San Antonio.
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I was just going to a public high school in the Northwest Side. But along the way, I decided to join the Teen Studio Intensive program at Southwest School of Art. And that was led by the legendary Katie Pell. Lives on in my heart forever, and love her. And after 3 years, I was getting to explore a lot of mediums in Katie's class. It was really focused on getting to, it felt like playing in like the best way. It was really fun. And we did everything from oil painting to making wearable sculptures for the King William Parade.
So cool.
It was really, really fun. And so she got me to try a whole bunch of different things. And along the way, I found that I really was falling in love with oil painting. And so in my final year of high school, I joined Alex Rubio's Mosaic program at Blue Star Contemporary. And I joined that program because it's independent study, basically, but with a focus on oil painting. And also mural assisting. So Rubio would have his students help with his murals, which was really cool. That was a really fun experience. And yeah, then I left for college. So.
And I'm going to get right back to Rubio and Katie. Well, actually, I'm going to talk about Katie because it occurred to me that we had a panel here of artists for, I forget what event, at the library. And right here, Katie was on a panel discussing.
Wow.
And it's a favorite for me anecdote because well, here's what happened. There's a panel of artists and they were talking about, not trying to get controversial, just saying what happened, but like someone was saying like artists need more government support and stuff. I'm not saying I'm against it, but Katie was like, well, you have options. You can always like get a real job. The artist now hit the table. I was like, I like this woman's style.
Nice.
And Katie had a very large personality, so it wasn't
Just keeping it real.
delivering
is all.
very Do you have any favorite anecdotes about Katie?
Oh yeah, for sure.
We lost her, by the way, what, like 2-3 years ago?
In 2019. Yeah. Really, really sad.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad I got to learn so much from her, and I love that just her existence is awesome. Like she always talked like this with her hands, and it was very like
super
emphatic.
spunky.
Yeah, she was so cool. And but she taught me a whole lot about life and art. But she said, never think you're too good for an opportunity. And she said when she was in art school at RISD, I think she would like pass up friends saying, hey, can you design my CD cover? And she said, no, I went to RISD. And then she said, Piper, never do that. always design the CD covers and do whatever you can get your hands on. And that's cool. Yeah.
And for the viewers who might not know, RISD
RISD is a really, I guess, acclaimed art school in Rhode Island. It's Rhode Island School of Design. And it's a really, I guess, applauded program, and so Katie went to a really, really good art school. So.
Tell us a little bit about your takeaway with working with Rubio.
With Rubio, oh my gosh, it's so awesome. I just met with him yesterday actually, just to catch up, and
He had been a guest when I said we were going to have you. He's like really happy to hear that.
oh wow, cool. I was wondering if he had heard. That's awesome. But yeah, he's just become a really, really giving mentor to me and a bunch of other people. And it started with, I never really quite grasped what a career as an artist would look like. I just kind of, that's not like I think a lot of people's,
Yeah.
brains knowledge. It's like it's kind of this mythical thing that only happened like 100 years ago, and that there aren't like real artists right now, or that there's no way to make money. But he kind of taught me the nitty gritty of working as an artist and what all that can look like, from public art to working with galleries to teaching and everything in between. And so it kind of opened my eyes when I was like 17 to what was possible. And he's also just like such a sage, wise dude. And
That wisdom, yeah.
Yeah, and he just like through all of these stories that he always shares, there's just so much that I've gotten to learn after hearing him tell them a lot. So.
Cool. Okay, so tell us about like when you first started getting into art. Like initially, what was that like? What brought you into what?
Yeah. Okay, so that was making macaroni cars in kindergarten.
As it often is.
That's amazing.
I was sitting at the art station and I'm like, wow, this is really fun. But I just kept on drawing ever since I was, holding crayons, and didn't really think anything would happen with it, but I just kept on drawing because I just loved it. And so I was taking classes as a kid in the summer at SAPL School of Art, and that was really cool. That just like planted the seed of really loving that place. So I, kept doing it, and then halfway through high school, I had always, I think when I was a freshman, I had known about NISA, the Northeast School of the Arts, but I just couldn't see myself pursuing it seriously. But and then I kind of wanted to go, but it was like out of my school district, and so my family said, "Oh, we can't work with schedules," and so eventually got my driver's license as fast as I could and transferred in, and that was really nice. It was about like 3 hours every day that I could spend working on my own projects, and so I got to oil paint in school, which was really great. I hear that a lot of students never get to oil paint in school because of fumes and everything, that it is kind of like a tricky medium to safely do in an enclosed thing. But it was great, and I did a lot of, intensive projects that I wouldn't have gotten to do, I think, otherwise without that time. And that was where I was really honing in on oil painting and trying to work a lot from life. And then I just kept on going. And then meanwhile, while I was 14 and still not sure about pursuing art or going to that school, I was in Katie's program, and she was egging me on, and that really helped a lot.
So when we first met, although before I met you, I used to be in the teen department of the library, and I created and ran this thing called the Teen Arts Fest, which is just an arts festival, multi-level, visual, music, dance, all sorts of stuff. But I'd go out to the schools and like say, hey, do you want to promote someone for a champion? Because we have a live painting contest, and we also have like an adjudicated art show. She was the first double winner. She won the adjudicated art show. Yes. And the live painting. And I spit on someone, I'm sorry. But I just want to say, in addition to that, like when I go out and like whenever your name would come up, people go, Piper, it's like, let's go and open this Piper. And I got like double nominated. You got Katie from Southwest School of Arts and someone from, I think you were at least at the time, right? Yeah, someone did. I was like, well, I don't know how that works, but okay. And even when he came in, because if you got selected for the adjudicated art show, you have to bring the picture in, obviously, so we could present it at the gallery. And you were walking in, I didn't know you at the time, but someone with the painting, and my coworker saw that, and just go, that's Piper. the painting, by the way, I thought it was, like when I was first looking at the entries, I thought it was a photograph. I was like, that's okay. It was a painting.
It's because it's so realistic,
Wow. That is so neat to hear. Wow. Man, yeah, that was a super fun event. I remember being 14, and that was when Katie told me first about the Teen Arts Fest paint off or something.
Oh, what do we call it?
Art Slam.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not the first one to use that term. but
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I remember telling her, that sounds terrifying. I can't do that.
The one you were in, someone took off during it. Like, I guess it was like more than she thought. Like it was too intense. Before I noticed, like, okay.
What did it consist of? Like actually painting
We
in
would,
person?
yeah, like
or-
live
okay.
painting.
Okay.
They could like sketch it or grid it,
Mhm.
but you had to paint it live. I think we gave you like 3 hours or something ridiculous like that. And I think I'm trying to think of the number. It was like 10 people
Mhm.
that were to champion their school or whatever, whoever we got. When 10 people were slots were filled, 10 slots were filled. Like we had some really awesome. I think we've at least had 2 winners from Alex's, Rubio's, in case he's watching, program win, but we've also had some other. Never mind. I forget.
So for that one person who just dropped, like couldn't take it and left,
I don't know.
cracked under the pressure.
Someone disappeared.
Yeah. It happens. It happens.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And I didn't imagine I would really, I don't know. It was really fun, I think. And I wasn't imagining that I would have enjoyed it that much. But like people coming up and talking to you while you're painting, it was really enjoyable. And it was a good time.
That was the whole thing. That's why it started, because I was here and I was just walking outside. We're at the San Antonio Public Library right now, but right across the street is Southwest School of Arts. We have art base. We have all these cool things. And I was like, these people should be connected. We should all be like not only
Yeah.
social role modeling. So like, Rachel, was she in your class? Rachel Kamada?
Oh yeah, in Mosaic.
Yeah,
she's
she's
awesome.
a good example because she came in on one arts fest and like saw Rubio like doing a demonstration, or whatever. She joined it the next year. She won. So that's exactly that. And so on their level, and then the adults who do that kind of work, I want everyone just to like be all kind of intermingling.
Yeah. I remember that. That was really cool. More like, I guess, the intermingling that happened between all the schools, like Katie's program and Mosaic, and also like Misa and all these other high schools. It was cool to see everybody congregate. That was neat.
Yeah, usually there's like more controversy. I know there's usually like, at least on the educators level, it gets a little territorial.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're in this school's
This
program or
school.
not, you can't be associated, but it's like, we just pushed them all together and said, let's have fun.
It allowed for transparency in various ways, like through the networking, but also whoever possibly was watching it could see the process, 'cause
Yeah.
often you see these beautiful pieces and you're like, how did that come to be, So that's really cool.
But especially about there's a disconnect, and I see with music too, like some people who just aren't in it or whatever think it's never gonna be for them, and it's like, no, come on, if you've done macaroni, you have a chance.
Yeah. Started with the macaroni.
You mentioned you're going to school now. Well, tell us more about Piper now, like what you're doing.
So I'm studying at Laguna College of Art and Design in Southern California. It's in Laguna Beach, but it's like an hour south of LA. And they're really big on representational art, and that just means art that looks like the thing that you're painting. So they're modeling themselves after schools called ateliers that were kind of Europe's format for teaching painting and drawing for the last several centuries. And so it was a lot of drawing from life, and so they would have like a figure up on the stand and everybody would be drawing the guy, and then also still life drawing. The only problem with those programs that they have now, and there are quite a few of them in the US, is that they don't give you a degree. They just give you a little certificate.
Yeah.
So you can't go get a whole bunch of jobs with
Yeah.
your atelier certificate. And so the college is basically like an atelier, but they have liberal arts classes, and then you get a degree at the end. And
Nice.
And that reminded me what I was going to say earlier. Didn't you were saying that Rubio kind of set you up with what a career would be like? There's such a need for that, because back when I was working with schools and stuff like that, one of the art schools had I think it was like an assembly of all the kids or whatever, and young adults. But
it's okay. I still feel like I'm
kids, I tell ya.
okay.
Get off my lawn.
I'll take it as long as I can.
They asked them what they wanted to hear more about, and that was it. Like in career in arts, and like all the teachers were just, they had no answer. Like be a teacher, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Rubio's, I guess, program was so helpful because he really taught us a lot about exhibition planning and writing your artist statements. For me, that was always the most terrifying part because it meant like having to present all this garbage that was floating around in my brain.
Self-reflect and be vulnerable.
And then pretend as a teenager I knew what I was talking about. But it was really great practice.
So was it like intimidating at that stage, or what was the major obstacle you had to overcome?
Intimidating, yeah, but I think, yeah, it was for a long time, me and my peers, we were always afraid of like submitting our art to competitions and things just because of the fear of rejection.
Oh, yeah.
I think the artist statement is kind of the thing that solidifies what your work is about, and so that kind of, I felt like it opened it up to people saying, no. And so I think that was the scariest part about them. But Rubio and the studio assistant at the time, Juan Castro, I have to give him a lot of credit. He was really, really super helpful. He was a BFA student or I think he had just graduated from SAPL School of Art.
Mm-hmm.
And so he also, was super helpful at writing artist statements, and they really kind of grilled me in a really great way because I really needed to be grilled.
They pushed you.
About how to write it. Then I started writing applications for things like National Young Arts Foundation and applying to those, and their help was immeasurably helpful. I really, really needed it at the time, and it was really moved mountains.
Back to the networking thing.
Yeah.
You see some artwork of your caliber. I guess, at least for me, I just think that you're just like a force of nature. I wouldn't have thought you had like people helping out, but it's important for all of us
Oh my gosh.
to have that.
Yeah,
Network
community
support.
and network. The support.
Yeah, I would not know 90% of what I have now because of Katie and Rubio, really, and my teachers at NISA, and now professors and things. But it's all like someone had to plant this in here.
Yeah.
It was all other people.
Are you saying you have a microchip in your head?
I am. Sorry, that's the secret.
Secrets out.
What inspires you these days?
Whoa, that's a good question.
And in the past after that.
And in the past, yeah. I would say ever since the beginning of 2022, I've taken a sharp turn with what I've been making compared to the last several years. But I think a lot of that came from one class that I took at LCAD that was called Illuminating Women. And basically what the class was about was women in art history, and also the filtration of women out of art history. That was really, really mind-blowing. The thing I always said about that class was I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. But through that class, I got to learn about so many amazing, incredible women artists, and that has kind of fed what I'm interested in now. Then also in that class, they talked about representations of women in art history, especially by artists and now I'm throwing out, sorry Picasso, but
Throwing out Picasso.
But in particular, there was one artist, Edgar Degas. You guys
Yes.
familiar? So for anybody listening, Edgar Degas was a French Impressionist painter who had, and you can tell me to cut this, by the way, if it's too.
Let's hear it.
Go for it.
Cool, but.
Don't start with a French artist.
But Edgar Degas was an artist who had three main bodies of work throughout his life, and they were female bathers, Parisian ballerinas, and women in brothels. And all three of those are loaded with a bunch of crazy stuff. But I was fixated on the bathers because in this class I learned through the textbook that a lot of those paintings that he did, and they're very kind of like odd paintings. They're like really awkward positions, and they're kind of just a little strange looking. But a lot of them were painted as if you're looking at the woman through a peephole in a door.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And so they're very like voyeuristic, strange, and I hadn't even realized that knowing Edgar Degas, because that's not what people focus on when they talk about Edgar Degas. And so that spawned these green paintings, where I'm painting a bunch of bathers, just like Edgar Degas. I'm using like the same kind of awkward gestures that he painted, but they're all framed in mirror, and so the viewer has to like look at themselves while they're looking at the painting and acknowledge that they're looking at this woman bathing.
They're the voyeur.
Because it was something that I never thought about when I was looking at Degas' work. And so that's why they're titled voyeur.
Yeah.
But that's where, I guess that's what I'm really in the weeds on right now with what I'm painting. So.
Oh, I love that. The mirror, like, you notice yourself watching the bathers, you know, like calling yourself out, you know?
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And he also has a really uncanny painting that kind of ties in with the Parisian Ballet paintings.
Those are the ones I grew up with, I guess, you know? Like,
yeah, and those are also a really, I'll delve into that. I should have put a sculpture I did in here, but I'll get to it eventually. But with the Parisian Ballet paintings, those are really unnerving paintings because in the Parisian ballets at the time, the ballerinas were recruited from low-income households, and they were kind of promised a really luxuriant lifestyle through this like established ballet, and it was really prestigious. But the reality was that then they became basically the what's the word? I mean, they were prostituted basically through the ballet for the patrons of the ballet. And so after the show, the patrons who were in the audience watching the performers up on the stage would, you know, figure out which young girl was their pick for the evening. And then afterwards, all the girls would go backstage and these men would say you. And the even more disturbing part of it was that a lot of them were 14. And so Degas had a sculpture called Little Dancer, aged 14, and it's really famous. It's just a young girl with her hands behind her back, kind of looking like this. But once I learned all of that, I was like, oh my God.
How exploitative it was. That's interesting.
Yeah. And so that's, I guess, okay. So along those lines of the ballets, something that the audience members would do when they went to these things was have binoculars so that they could like peer closer at the dancers. So Degas has this one single painting of a woman like alone, but she's like looking right at the viewer through binoculars, and it's a very weird painting. And it's like, why did he do this? I don't know, but it's really like kind of a off-putting image. But so in one of these, the next I guess thing I'm exploring is I really like the binoculars as like a way to out the viewer. Like they're looking at you, they're seeing you, they're acknowledging you.
I like that.
Whereas the bathers that Degas was painting were like unaware of this creepy voyeur looking at them. And so it'll probably come up in a few slides, but I've painted a woman like reclining on a bed, as women are often painted, but she's like jolted up and she's like staring at the viewer like, hey, you're looking at me. What are you doing?
That's so cool. That's like the other side of it, you know? Like,
thank you. Yeah.
it's a little response to all that. The back history on the Degas ballerinas reminds me of like Moulin Rouge and stuff, like the performers, and I'm like, oh. I know that's just like based on, you know, it's fiction or whatever, but that's pretty disturbing about Degas'
real.
work. So
Not on that level, but, and I say this as a musician and other art, whatever, creativity stuff. The arts is just like got so much darkness in it. Like even like the people that
Yeah.
like are, you know, not quote unquote bad people, you kind of like, well, yeah, to get into like bad behavior, like rock stars.
yeah, you
They're
have to go to
pretty
the dark
awesome, but
side
they
to
do
like
some stuff
pull
that's just
from.
like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, just not just rock stars, but the arts, it just has that weird dark side.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about that with like my professors in class because like my school is really just focused on the technical part of I guess painting, and like that's what I came there for. But now I'm exploring these things, and there's like a lot of conversations.
So-
I'm like, tell me,
Plus time to tell us.
I know, right?
Yeah, but so when I talk about these, there are like a lot of conversations that go on about like how much can you separate the art from the artist, and I've definitely heard like you should. I feel like in Degas' case, and in a lot of artists who are working like him, his work is so tied up in like, I guess, being a voyeur. Like that's part of the work, and not just him as a person. And so that's where I've kind of like used him as like a way to talk about this broader thing that's going on in painting for a long time.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to talk about that way. Like I would think it would help if you could divorce yourself an artist and get into it. Like if you could like switch back and forth. Because there's a lot of people. Let's face it, that like musicians, artists, whatever, just feel like they can talk about whatever and their word goes. It's like you can. People write the words that are coming out of your mouth. Give me a break.
Yeah.
But I'll see your movie and maybe I'll listen to what you're saying.
But there is this really funny thing that I
Now she brings it out. I'll bring it, crush them down.
Build them back up.
There was let's see. I was really lucky to go to Spain in October last year, and that was because my roommate, who's my classmate at LCAD, won an award, and they were having a museum show over there, and I said, let's go! And we got like COVID prices, and so it's like,
COVID prices, everything must get
affordable.
So managed to do it. Feel really fortunate, but when we were over there, we made it a point to go to the Picasso Museum because Picasso is from Spain. So we went and we saw this hilarious series of prints, and we just couldn't stop laughing, and people were like looking at us.
Little giggle fits.
So Picasso also did a lot of brothel scenes in his works, and so he did a lot of lithographs and different printing techniques that were just like drawings of prostitutes and brothels. But there was this one series that was really wild because in all of these brothel scenes, there's like a little tiny Edgar Degas like peeking in through the corner of all of these prints. And
He's
there's
calling
like
out
30 of
Degas
them.
now.
He was on here. I was like, I'm bad. Look at that guy.
Wow,
At least
I
I'm
need to
open
see
about
those.
it.
I need to see those. That's awesome.
They are, and they're so funny because it's just like, you know, so hypocritical.
And this is
It's just,
in a few of them, like.
yeah, it's a whole.
Were they
it's
contemporaries or?
Not well. Let's see. I think Degas was maybe like 100 years earlier or something,
So-
like a while before, and then Picasso died in like the 70s.
Back the bus
So
over
he
the
had
brother
a
when
sense
he's
of
dead.
humor. He wasn't just
Can't come
depressed
back.
Picasso. He had a sense of humor in there. Like. That's interesting. That's so cool. Cool little detail.
Yeah, but it's been making me fixated even more on
Yeah.
it. Just like, I see you.
Yeah.
Looking back at you, the guy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Name that too. Maybe I don't know.
What type of music do you like to
Oh my
listen
goodness.
to?
Well,
While
that's a
painting.
funny.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a good one. I guess this is kind of funny, but in the last 2 semesters, I had a professor who is like the complete opposite of a normal college professor, and so like whenever we're like painting in class, he's playing just the most hardcore dubstep you've ever heard.
That's kind of amazing. I love that.
He Yeah, and it's like EDM. And
Yeah.
then kind of there's like some lo-fi in there, and there's I guess electronic dance music is like when I'm really needing to. I'm usually like getting up early in the morning and drinking coffee, and then I'm like only half awake, and so I put on like really zazzed EDM music. I'm just jamming out.
Yeah. Whatever gets you going.
No? Yeah, maybe. No.
Keep going.
Keep going. Let's, okay.
I'll whistle it.
No? Do you know the lyrics? Can you sing something? We're just stumping around this thing.
I know, yeah.
It's an old song, thousands of years before you were born. How love will keep us together.
Keep us together.
Let's see if she knows the guitar stuff. That's probably more. Edit all the keywords.
You want me to
We'll switch? Yeah.
Okay.
Can I have a hint what bands are?
Yeah. I can tell you the band. Why don't I play? And if you like, I need a hint, I'll tell you. Because I think you're pretty honest. I can make it super obvious.
Oh, whoa.
Right.
It's all dubstep.
All right. The most obscure dubstep.
Name that tune. I put it in just so you can tell. I can't tell. I don't know what I put.
JD, come on.
I'm stumping
I'm like
myself.
so impressed that I'm like not thinking about what songs they are.
Oh, okay. Then I'll just play a Piper Jam. We'll do a Piper Jam. Then we'll do
Piper
this.
Jam?
Yeah. Don't be offended if it doesn't come out.
No, yeah.
Piper Jam.
Oh, JD, rocking out.
Trying to read my writing.
That's a hyper-inspired
Let's
jazz.
start out with easy ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, God.
Keep going.
Is
Keep
that-
going. Where's the door? No, I was singing it. I was singing it. Just trying to.
It's Enter Sandman by Metallica.
Oh, yeah.
SM? What is SMG? Oh, I know what that is. It's not even a rock song. This is not a rock song. It's actually done on a different instrument. Let's see if you can guess too soon.
Is that by America?
No?
No.
Maybe? I was just talking about the artist, Sarah Mike, and we were just talking about Nina Simone!
Oh.
Oh, Nina Simone. Oh. Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, you got it. This is fun, so I can do some more. This is fun for me. That's all that counts, right?
Play the like I
Main one?
yeah. I know it. I just it's like on the tip of my tongue. I don't know.
It's Layla.
Oh yeah. Eric Clapton.
You know that song? No.
Is this one? Is there a Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah, this one is.
Literally.
He's not as distorted.
Yeah, he doesn't
He's
have the
singing.
distortion on that.
Oh, yeah. Rihanna?
Yeah.
Oh my god, one! Yay!
Well, we can edit it to be even more. Or we'll just put in a Piper voice. That was. How about? What do you listen to?
Like soft rock? Well, I mean like.
You like not that stuff. Oh, how about?
Or like of the rock kind of, it's like Eagles, America, oh my god, Santana? Or no, wait, Eagles, right?
Yeah.
Eagles?
Yeah. Which one?
Don't
I
you
mean,
worry.
kind of. You said Eagles.
Yeah.
How about let's do heavy? You're like, yeah, that's not soft rock.
Yeah, I'm stuck.
So I'm at Pop Madness 2022, and I'm with a couple members of the Escape the Earth podcast. Introduce yourselves to our lovely guests.
So
Our guests.
I'm Tim. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm Tim,
I'm Mary Elizabeth,
and we do the Escape the Earth podcast.
along with Alyssa, who isn't here at the moment, but she is here.
I think I'm gonna
She's eating lunch.
I'm gonna get a Gonzo interview with her, and it's the last thing I do.
Let's go bust into the break room.
What are you
camera
eating?
right now.
What ingredients is this? Do you know where this is farmed? Or whatever. I don't know. So tell us a little bit
Is it
about
free range? It's the pepperoni free range.
Pepperoni, the pizza, and free range.
who delivered the pizza.
Are
Tell
there-
us about your podcast.
Okay, so Escape the Earth is a podcast that we do monthly. We read books, sci-fi, fantasy, and we just talk about it, how it impacted us, what we thought about it, takeaways from it, and it's been a really great experience for me. I love it. It's a nice getaway from like the day-to-day activities, and also it's gotten me reading more again, even though I work at the library. Sometimes reading just doesn't happen because you're busy working.
They get mad at me when I read all day. I don't know what the deal is.
I know. Well, people have questions and answers, so
I'm trying to read.
So it's been a really great experience for me. Sometimes we compare books and movies.
We have at least done one movie, and we've talked about Wheel of Time in episodes. But when the new Dune came out, we talked about that. We wondered why there was so much Tibetan throat singing and war bagpipes.
Can you use some Tibetan?
I feel that more movies need to go singing.
Let's try to do the interview in that. Let's see if I can. What? I can't. It hurts.
It
I guess
sounds,
it is.
sounds like Bogam poetry.
Yeah, there was some interesting creative choices.
To the formation of Escape the Earth. It was your brainchild, right?
It was actually a book club that I had when I was working at the Harvard Library that I inherited from a guy named Tyler, who
Durden?
uh,
Book club, Tyler Durden book club. I don't know.
I don't do any last names, so but no, he wasn't Tyler Durden. He was fairly intact mentally, and still is as far as I know. I'm friends with him on Goodreads, and so I refer to him as the godfather of Escape the Earth.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And I'd like to get him on an episode one day just so that we could talk. But
Was he an employee or a patient or?
he was an employee. He was an employee with SAPL at the time, and so
Legacy, y'all. Legacy.
That's right. So he started Escape the Earth, and then when he moved to another job, he got a job at Rackspace. It was handed off to another person in the library, and then it came to me. And so it was an in-person club, and then when COVID hit, and we had to shut off all of the in-person services for a time, I thought, why not transition this to the digital world? And so we've done that, and I'm fairly happy with it. I'd like to keep it going. I'm ecstatic that we've done more than 10 episodes, because most podcasts die before 10 episodes. And
Fun fact, me and Tim were on a podcast together, and Easter egg, because I'm not going to give it away, but you can try and look for it. There's a music video that we're both part of for SAPL.
that is true. I'd forgotten about that.
I blocked it out.
I did. Well, I was forced to sing the Spice Girls.
Oh, that one.
Mother Code
Mother Code.
by
I
Carol
don't know. I
Stein.
didn't think I was gonna enjoy it at first because it's about a pandemic, and it was like I was like, oh, too soon. But the Carol Stivers wrote it way before the pandemic happened, and it just so happened that it was published the year the pandemic happened. And but it just took the story to a really great place and really creative thoughts on how would we take care of our children if everybody dies. So, kind of bleak, but it was a very heartwarming, hopeful story.
As most are when everybody dies.
Yeah.
It was very uplifting, like
It
the
was.
Titanic movie.
It really actually was.
There should be cards. So everybody died. Party on.
Yeah, but there's like a hope to it that you can see, and it was really great, and it was just a really great journey, and it was that was one of my favorites that we recorded because I like the book, but I love all of the recordings.
We really all really liked the last book that we did.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah, that was a great one too. Black Sun.
Black Sun by Rebecca Longhorst.
Yeah, that one. Oh, it's a high fantasy novel that just had. I love high fantasy, but I just kind of dropped off of it, and this one just sparked that love of it again for me. It was really great.
The thing I like about it is, like most high fantasy, it's all medieval Europe, you know.
Right.
And this one was actually pre-Columbian Mesoamerica that the society was structured around.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Never
too.
seen that before, obviously, because like you said, yeah, it was really.
So contextually, because I haven't heard it, I'm assuming high fantasy is just like totally immersing fantasy.
Oh yeah, it's like you're on a different world. It's not Earth. You have names that are hard to pronounce. There's some sort of magic involved, like
It's got it all.
sword and
It's got it all.
sorcery type thing. Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah,
Everything in the kitchen sink.
I would say sword and sorcery.
Yeah. The book has a glossary.
And maps.
And maps.
Again, where can we find this game?
So it's on SoundCloud, it's on iHeartRadio, it's on Apple Podcasts. It's basically on all of them except for Spotify.
So you have to look for Tuned
But we're
In.
getting them next.
Oh yeah, the SAPL Tuned In. And we're
And since Alyssa chickened out of this,
let's
let's do, but she knew it was coming up, and then she failed. Let's do a speed round. You give me answers that you think Alyssa would be giving you to these
I
questions.
don't know, she's really smart. Really smart.
Act smart, man. Favorite ice cream?
Rum Raisin.
Favorite movie? So what are smart movies?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, good choice. Favorite comedian?
Don Rickles.
Oh, nice. Last interview you did, G. Anything you guys want to talk about before we wrap up this segment?
Watch the SAPL Variety show.
Yeah.
Look for some crossover action with that.
And you can come on and escape the Earth too.
Let's do it. Yeah, I was telling Alyssa, aforementioned, because she was pitching like a jam or whatever for my program, but it's like, we can kind of jam on your theme, like while it's playing and then go into whatever.
Yeah, our escape the Earth thing was pretty amazing. I love it.
You're the composer, right?
Just an E chord with a phaser.
And my phaser he needs. All right, cool. Well, thanks for picking on SAPL Variety.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, we brought you all here today to see how you've honed your evil skills. Let's see what you got.
I discovered a way to change all the expiration dates on the milk by using a dry erase marker and a Sharpie. I changed all the dates by 1 day. Are they drinking expired milk? Who knows? Nobody. Total chaos.
That's just basic evil.
Who's next?
What do you have?
Yes, blowing us to smithereens. Very, very evil. 2 evil gold stars. Very good. What else do we have? I'm very impressed with this.
What do you got?
I have a manifesto that will unleash pure evil. Yes. Yeah. We know the game and we're gonna play it. And if you ask me how I'm feeling, don't tell me you're too blind to see. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna turn
Stop!
around.
You just turned around. This is evil, but it's not villain evil. Very impressive.
So tell us about, you know what painting I'm talking about? It's called, what's it called? Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So that was, let's see, I think I painted that, it was in 2019, and that was when I started Rubio's program. But I think I painted that one while I was in NISA, but I was still absorbing all of that feedback I was getting from Rubio. And that was when I was starting to get into drawing from art history to talk about things happening right now that I thought were interesting, and then also just drawing from chats with friends. So that's a portrait of a really good friend that I had in high school. Her name is Clarissa, and she identifies as Chicana, and for her, I guess, so La Virgen de Guadalupe was a major icon while she was growing up, as for many San Antonians. But she told me about how she had like this inner conflict where she felt like she wasn't being this ideal, like feminine icon, because she had bright dyed red hair and she had like piercings and all this fun, teenage art kid stuff. And so I thought, well, why does that have to be the ideal feminine icon? And I thought, what if she is ideal just as she is? And so I did this portrait of her as La Virgen de Guadalupe, and I titled it Nueva Maria. And so that's the painting that I had in the show, and it's about celebrating who we are right now as we are. And it has a few fun Easter eggs for art history nerds.
I actually bought that paint out for her.
Really?
My wife's an artist, so if you could tell me the, I was like, whoa, what do you know about that?
So at the time I was taking one of my first art history classes. I think it was maybe the first I took, and I learned about Byzantine icon painting. And those are, so the Byzantines were like kind of the predecessors for, or I guess what came after Rome, basically, after the Roman Empire. That was kind of, they were around the time of early Christianity in the area. So in that time period, there were these religious, basically votive symbols where you had someone paint a religious icon that you could pray to in your home. And there are these really beautiful paintings of, I guess, like the Virgin Mary and other religious figures and saints. And so a lot of them have kind of hidden meanings in the hand symbols they're using, and I never thought about about what their hands are doing in these paintings, because you see them and it's like Jesus going, woo.
Yeah.
But they're always kind of doing something interesting. And so there's this one that is like the symbol of I'm Jesus, which is he has his, let's see if I can do it. He has an X with here, a C, and then an I, and that is the, I think, Greek abbreviation for basically the name of Jesus at that time. And so if you go walk into a Byzantine church and you see the dude doing this thing with his hand,
They're always like, they have some
Yeah,
strange
that's-
hand
that's-
yeah.
yeah. And so that's kind of like
I was
the
just always
symbol
like
of
this.
and so that's like the symbol of like someone being a holy figure in those paintings. Then the other, but the funny thing, oh wow, okay, I'm getting a little bit something wrong here. I wanted to do that hand signal in the painting, but her hands physically couldn't do it. And so I decided to go with something else. And so what I went with instead was
She's doing this.
Yeah, of course, yeah. She's got, let's see, one hand like this and then the other like this. And this symbol comes from, I forget what they're called, but they're basically praying figures or holy figures in Byzantine icon paintings. And so when you see someone doing this, it means that they're spiritual.
They're in prayer.
Exactly. And then the other hand in the painting is this, and this comes from the hand symbols that Roman orators used while they were speaking.
Okay.
And this was what they would do when they were at like the crux of their argument, and when they were like reaching their most important point of what they were saying. They went like this, which I guess, yeah. So I wanted basically her to have that symbol as like this is the statement that I'm making with the painting, and so she's going like this. And this was also to just help tell the story of her being, Mary, basically. And,
The spiritual aspect of it.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Mudras. Have you heard of Mudras?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's like when you did this, that's the Gyan Mudra.
What's Mudra?
Mudras are in like Indian philosophy. If you think yoga, things of that nature, it's about shifting the energies and everything. And mudras are like hand postures that redirect the energy. So yeah, like that one, when you did that, I was like, thought of it in that aspect too, which is also spiritual and beneficial. So,
Yeah.
but I had never heard about it in that context. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's super fun to hear too,
Yeah.
because my mom teaches yoga, and when she saw the painting, she was like, "These look like mudras. What
Yeah.
are you doing?"
I'm a yoga teacher too, so
Oh,
yeah.
oh my
So
gosh,
I was like, I know the mudras, like that's awesome.
Oh my gosh, fun. But yeah, and then in the background of the painting, there's also kind of, I don't know, what would it actually came from my mother's living room. It's this like funny little decoration that has like fake peonies on it. But in the legend of the Virgin of Guadalupe, she, I guess, appears with roses, and so I put those in the background of the painting, kind of around her head as like a crown, and those are there. So,
I love that because a lot of people here in Texas are Catholic, and they have that traditional image of how you should behave and emulate the Virgin Mary and everything, and it's like, no, it's like you don't have to be like that to be sacred and to be beautiful as well. I love that you depicted your friend, and that she's the modern, can still have the same beautiful qualities, and inspire the way the Virgin Mary did. So I love that. I
oh,
love that.
thank you.
Super
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. I was really honored that she let me tell her story that way. That was a really fun, special painting.
It's very
I feel
powerful.
bad. I had no idea any of that was going on, but now I know. I feel.
Yeah.
And you own the painting?
I was like, that was cool.
It just looks cool. I'm taking it. It's like, no, there's a whole story. Well, just like
And my wife
the
loves it
guys.
a lot. We don't agree on art a lot, so like when we both like something, it's like, let's get it.
Yeah.
What kind of art does your wife like? I would love to know. That's fun.
Stumping me, wait, something. She likes Van Gogh a lot. As far as like what she does or like what she's into.
Oh, both. Yeah.
But she likes getting on different kicks. Like she was doing something where she would do whatever art piece and then she like would burn like different lengths of wood around it. She did something with barbed wire.
Whoa.
It sounds like she's
Oh my gosh, that's
more of
good.
a what you call it, installment, but not installment.
Or installation schedule? That's so cool.
But she does actual paintings and then she'll surround it with something crazy. She's like, sure, happy about that. I can't think of a painting. I can just think Van Gogh for some reason. That piece, the Roman bust at Sama. Have you heard about that? Well, maybe you know what I'm talking about?
Was this like a conservation type thing or something else?
It was a find of a person at Goodwill.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
I didn't hear
I
about
read
this.
about that.
Wow.
Yeah. In Austin, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess.
Oh my gosh, yes. I heard
And it
that.
was like
That's
$200.
in
It
Sama?
was like
Wow.
like high price for a Goodwill, but like
Yeah.
it was a freaking piece of history, you know? like, and now it's here at the Sama, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's so
Wow.
amazing.
I heard about that, but I didn't even know that it was in Texas.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Well, I
Oh
was
my
in our
God.
backyard.
literally in Sama's the San Antonio Museum of Art. I was over there talking business, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to tour?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And they're like, "Oh, you know about the Roman bust?" I'm like, "I don't know, I guess." And then she started talking about it a little bit, and I was like, "Oh yeah, the one at
It's a
Goodwill."
celebrity that must.
And then when she showed us, we were like, "Oh, you took the Goodwill sticker off. Doesn't that seem bad?" But basically, we haven't told the story. I guess it was found at a Goodwill. A woman, I guess she knew her art and figured out what it was, and I don't think she couldn't sell it because you can't sell. Do you know what that's called?
I guess secondary market.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess so. So it's on loan to the San Antonio Museum of Art, and then it's going to go back to Germany, to home in Germany.
Oh, I told.
Sounds like I took up to that.
I'm not emotional about this whatsoever. Like,
Make it back to Germany someday.
Man, I didn't know that about that she couldn't sell it herself because she found it. That's really interesting.
Guess it was stolen, right? Or,
Right, yeah. But it's like,
How did it end up in Austin? Yeah, no. That's insane. I love it.
I just yelled it. I'm sorry, talking about it.
Thank you for dropping the knowledge on
I know, right?
Now I have a fun story to go home and tell everybody.
You have to see it this summer before you leave. So.
So those were the ones that were from that series, the Flora series. But in the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, I've started doing a series that I've titled Wabi Sabi, and that came from a Japanese concept that is wabi sabi. Are you both maybe familiar?
The cracks in the
Yes.
Yes,
but you'll probably explain it a lot better.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about, but go ahead and explain it for years.
So I guess that started with I was doing all those flower paintings, and then someone came up or told me like these look like Ikebana arrangements. And has anybody?
I do not know what that.
Yeah, like I did not know either. And
I didn't study for the quiz.
but so Ikebana arrangements are a Japanese tradition where that kind of is under the umbrella of wabi sabi as a philosophy. But the Ikebana arrangements are just 1 or 2 like selections of native flora from the environment around them that they then like put in a vase and celebrate. And so instead of having this really perfect domesticated flower that's usually, I guess, painted or displayed or whatever, like roses. I mean, roses is like a really broad, generic thing. These bouquets were made from the people's like local spot. So someone said these paintings are like a whole lot like that, and I went, oh my gosh, this is wild. I've never even. I mean, I came to these just by exploring and always just liking going for nature walks and enjoying what I saw. But then I thought, oh my god, that is so cool that across the world people are doing the same thing. But then I started reading about wabi sabi because that is kind of the Ikebana arrangements are under that concept. And so I was telling a friend about this, and they said, "Oh yeah, have you heard about the wabi sabi like tea ceremonies where I'm not well versed on like what all happens, but basically people in the tea ceremony are drinking from a cup that is imperfect intentionally, and an important part part of it is to like look at the cup and appreciate all of it, including its imperfection, and to love it anyways. And so I made these paintings kind of looking at or thinking about that, and I was debating whether like wabi or using wabi sabi as like as direct inspiration was like okay, and whether I could like use that title, but then I thought it would not be appropriate for me to not acknowledge that like really influenced those paintings, and so they're all numbered through the Wabi Sabi series, and so they're these like wild, withered, kind of old plants like that, all put in vases as a way to like show appreciation for them, and then the other thing that I've been having fun with is the same thing through that art history class about women artists. I learned about this Dutch painter from like the 1500s named Rachel Royce, and she was like really well known in her time for doing these really dynamic, awesome botanical Dutch still lifes, and she was known for like they're really kind of funny because they always have like this one single tulip up at the top of the composition, like always over and over. And have you guys heard of the Tulip Craze of the Netherlands?
We're making stuff up now.
It's really funny. People are like using that to talk about like Bitcoin now. It's really funny. It's so the Dutch Tulip Craze. I'm getting like way off in a bunch of different places.
We love it.
But the Dutch Tulip Craze was basically in the Netherlands. There was this whole class of merchants that were getting a whole bunch of money, and they needed something to spend it on, as people are now needing or wanting to go spend it on Bitcoin, Notion, whatever, do what you want. But these tulips became like the status symbol, and so if you had a tulip that was like a certain kind, you were the coolest guy of the cool guys. And if you got it painted, like you would, and I mean these tulips could cost as much as a house.
Oh,
in
dang.
the Netherlands. And so painters like Rachel Royce were commissioned to make paintings of these wealthy merchants' gorgeous little items. And so that's where there's all these, like, even at Salmon they have one, I think, that's like a giant Dutch still life with like all this fruit and flowers and meat and everything. And it was basically the merchants wanting to tell all of their like dinner party guests, look at how cool and wealthy I am.
Yeah. It was a status like symbol.
But so it's really interesting. But so the tulip, because it was the most like expensive, fancy thing that they had, that would always went at the top of the painting in the bouquet. And so Rachel Royce always had those as like a way to like position that way to show them as like the most prized thing. And so in some of these, I started putting like the tulip on the bottom and then these native like wild plants on the top.
Oh, go ahead and plug your site.
Yeah. On my website, hyperbanks.com, there's all of these paintings and some more too. Oh, and this one is a fun one. Oh, it's gone. But the yellow one, that one has a little beetle in the bottom of it. And where that came from was, I was taking ancient art history, and then I learned about, Egyptian scarabs that are like a really like significant holy symbol, and they're like of the gods there, and they're really, really appreciated, and they're like in extremely fine jewelry there. And then I like looked at them closer, and I thought, scarabs, I think we have these in Texas.
I think I saved one the other day. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, and then I like Googled them, and they're called dung beetles here.
Oh,
That was a respect, I have to say.
Yeah, and so about why, I guess I just was thinking like, it's so interesting that we choose certain parts of nature to appreciate and not appreciate, and so.
I saved this life paper.
You did, bravo, yes, do it. Treat it like it's
Revered.
the revered
Well, I couldn't tell it was a weird thing. To get this a weird story or whatever, but it just happened. It happened yesterday. That same beetle, because it's like black and very distinctive. But it was like at the corner of her house. I'm like, is it stuck? What's it doing there? So we just stayed. And I didn't want to get smushed or anything. But I'm like, maybe he's trying to get out of the heat. So I gave it some time. I said, no, it's still there. So I took a little leaf and like pulled it out, and it went away.
Well, bravo, Jamie.
True life
You're
story.
living the goal of the painting.
Oh, and I remember my wife likes the pre-Raphaelites.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. The pre-Raphaelites are so wild. You know, I learned something really funny after the Sama show. Then I was like doing more Googling about them, and I found out, I mean, they were like a colony of like 100 dudes, and then I think there were a few female painters, but if you notice, like in a lot of these paintings, there's like a redhead woman.
Yeah.
It's all one woman. She
What?
just like modeled
It's
her on
the
the
same-
paintings. Yeah.
same
yeah,
woman in
I
all
think I
those.
would have figured that because like Frazetta, a lot of times it's the same chick. It's like in case you don't know, Frazetta's very fantasy. They're very like Conan the Barbarian. There's like not to be sexist, but there's a dude and like he's got like 3 or 4 chicks or whatever, but it's got the same face.
Yeah.
Like, there's different ways.
Yeah.
Same model.
Yeah. Another thing about Frazetta that I was like shocked by. Like, have you ever seen the actual paintings, or do you know the
Oh, yeah,
dimensions?
yeah. Uh-huh.
There's like little. I thought there were these huge pieces.
Yeah.
Which I was like,
The actual size of it. Like,
what? No, where's the real one? Come on.
Yeah, and now in art school, like we all have one friend. Her name is Annie, who like models for everyone's paintings. So now we joke that we've got our one redhead model.
yeah, she of this era.
One being
like,
colony.
yeah.
It's just like it's just her.
It's an original Annie.
I know, right?
She's actually in most. She's most of my paintings. It's pretty funny.
That's interesting. That's in California at school.
Wow. Used to the masses.
Right, what do you do for a living? That's
You're probably inspired now. I'm just saying.
Super cool about the Raphaelite. I had no idea, but yeah, like when you think back on it, it's like that lady looks the same. You know, like she's everywhere in that era. So
Yeah, we're like, why were there so many redheads?
yeah, it's like, nope, it's the same person.
It explains the ratio of the dudes and a couple women. We got the one. What do you need? We've got our Annie. Come on.
All right. Yeah. Used to them all. I love that. That's funny.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for joining us.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a
Thank you
blast.
guys
Yes,
so
thank you
much
for having
me.
us.
Wow.
Let us pick your brain a little bit. Like,
Oh my gosh, so much fun. Thank you guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
See you
Good night.
next
Or
time.
good day. Good day.
Good day, sir.